Oda has genuinely just changed the entirety of One Piece. I mean, the literal whole story has just been recontextualized with a reveal from the recent One Piece chapter. If you have not read chapter 1154, massive spoilers incoming in this video, this is your chance to click off. I'm sure you've all seen it already. I am of course referring to the reveal that Rox D. Zebek is the father of Blackbeard. This is massive, not only for the future of the story, but recontextualizing a lot of moments in the past of One Piece, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about in this video. This chapter had a lot of insane things outside of this Rox reveal as well. Things like Galaela being part of the Ancient Kingdom, or just the state of Elbaf 60 years ago. I'm going to talk about those in a future video, but for now we are talking about this insane reveal that Rox is Blackbeard's father. If you enjoy this video, make sure to like, and if you want to stay updated with Elbaf, I make videos every week about the current chapter, so make sure to subscribe. Shit is getting wild. Okay, so let's get into it. This reveal changes One Piece in 3 different categories in my opinion. It gives us massive implications about the strength of the characters in the story. It recontextualizes a ton of scenes from the past of One Piece. And it gives us a ton of ingredients to cook up future theories for the end of One Piece. I'm going to go through each of these categories one by one, so let's talk about strength. So we've known for a very long time that Rox is one of the strongest pirates of all time, but the fact that he's Blackbeard's father does a lot for both of them. Rox being Blackbeard's father gives stuff to Rock's stock, and Rox being Blackbeard's father gives stuff to Blackbeard's stock, so let's talk about both of those sides of the coin. First, what does Blackbeard do for Rox? Well, because Blackbeard has a very strange body and is able to possess multiple devil fruits, it leaves me wondering, does Rox have multiple devil fruits? Is this sort of a lineage thing, or is Blackbeard unique on his own? Personally, I'm leaning towards Rox potentially having 2 devil fruits just like his son. It would make sense considering Roger and Garp together had to take him down, and just with the magnitude of the God Valley incident, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a threat like Rox with 2 devil fruits on that island, so that's definitely something to keep in mind. But what Rox does for Blackbeard here is actually a lot more interesting. Me personally, I thought Blackbeard was around Luffy's level right now considering they're both growing on parallel paths, but I always thought Blackbeard was lacking in the Haki department and was kind of a devil fruit merchant. But put simply, you do not get to the level of Rox with just devil fruits alone. This guy is absolutely a Haki monster, especially with how Elbaf is forming up to be a Haki explanation arc similar to Wano. I think this reveal makes it possible that Blackbeard is a lot stronger than people like me believed originally, and he could potentially be soaring past where we thought he was going to be at the end of the story. And lastly, for strength, this reveal really made me think about the unthinkable levels of strength that Luffy and Blackbeard are going to be at when they eventually fight. It is very hard for me and other One Piece fans to think about how our main characters can get stronger. We don't even know the vehicles at which Luffy can exceed the strength he's at right now. We don't know what Haki lies beyond what we've already discovered. And the fact that Rox and Roger were brawling on God Valley at a level above what we're at right now means that Luffy and Blackbeard are going to reach unthinkable levels of strength for us current One Piece fans to even realize. Just the existence of Rox and the fact that he's Blackbeard's father means there's a whole world of strength, whether it's in Haki or devil fruits, that is untapped into for the future of One Piece, and there is still a large ceiling of strength for our main characters to hit compared to what we thought at the end of Wano, where we thought Luffy kind of just reached the end of his level of strength. And honestly, the fact that Oda chose Elbaf to introduce Rox, I think Elbaf is going to be the first arc where we see Luffy start to take those steps in the right direction. After all, he is going to have to grow his Conqueror's Haki to be able to damage the God's Knights, so I think this is definitely intentional by Oda. So next, arguably the biggest impact that this reveal has on One Piece is the recontextualization of so many scenes in One Piece's past. The first one I want to talk about is Whitebeard letting Blackbeard onto his crew when Blackbeard was a child. I want to talk about this one first because it was kind of cool to see Whitebeard in this chapter. I'm always here for more Whitebeard moments, and this reveal did a lot for Whitebeard's character. I refuse to believe that Whitebeard did not know that Blackbeard was Rox's son when he led him on his crew. I think Whitebeard very well knew what he was doing, and this does a lot for Whitebeard's character, because Whitebeard's whole thing is not letting the sins of someone's father reflect on their son. It was the same with Ace and Roger, and the fact that Whitebeard let Blackbeard onto his crew just shows that Whitebeard's values were so ironclad that he would let Rox's son onto his crew after having such a heinous captain, who he obviously did not really respect because he made his pirate crew with the opposite ideals of Rox's pirate crew. And this also adds a ton of information to the scene where Whitebeard tells Blackbeard that he is not the inheritor of Roger's will. This speech at the end of Marineford is now really interesting, knowing that Whitebeard was knowingly talking to Rox's son. This scene to me now looks like Whitebeard was almost talking to Rox himself, or at least the ideals that Rox stood for, and was sort of saying, you're not going to win, there will be no destruction of the world, Roger's lineage will succeed in liberating the world. This conversation just has so much more depth considering Whitebeard absolutely knew who Blackbeard was. Next, we all know the meeting between Ace and Blackbeard, the fight that led to Marineford, is an insane One Piece moment that kind of blew up the scale of the series, but now looking back at that moment, we now know it is a legendary meeting of the son of Roger and the son of Zebek, almost having a rematch between those two lineages just like God Valley. But what's even more impressive from Oda is the insane web of connections and parallels that Luffy and Blackbeard is going to exemplify when they fight. When you think of Ace and Blackbeard being the son of Roger and the son of Rox having a rematch, Luffy and Blackbeard just has an insanely deeper level of connections. You have Luffy, who's the grandson of Garp, who fought against Rox at God Valley, the inheritor of Roger's will, who's the other person who fought against Rox at God Valley, the brother of Ace, who's the son of Roger, who got defeated by Blackbeard, which resulted in his death, fighting against Blackbeard, who, like I've said this whole video, is the son of Rox, the person who defeated Ace, Luffy's brother, the person who killed Whitebeard, who was Roger's rival, and Ace's adoptive father. I mean, there is literally just so much riding on Luffy versus Blackbeard. There are so many characters connected in this web of just parallels that Oda has crafted for the end of the story. I just cannot stop thinking about how this fight is going to be, I think, the pinnacle of what you can do for build-up in a combat shonen. It is going to be one of the greatest fights of all time. This also adds a whole level of depth to Blackbeard taking over Hachinosu and making it his pirate hideout, because this was him retaking his father's base, or potentially country, because Rox had access to the Reverie, so maybe Pirate Island was a country that was part of the world government. Not only that, the fact that Rox was at the Reverie means, like I said, he might have been a king of some sort, maybe even Hachinosu, which adds a whole new level of depth to Blackbeard trying to become a king to gain access to the Reverie. There could be some sort of parallels here based on their motives. Maybe Rox was at the Reverie because he knew about the secret of Marijoa, or he knew about Emu, or he just wanted to be the king of the world, and the same goes for Blackbeard, who is now trying to follow in his father's footsteps and potentially be the king of the world. And on top of that, this also adds a whole new level of depth to Blackbeard's crew having access to shape-shifting into one of the former Gorosei members. Remember, on Egghead, Katarina Devon touched Saturn's leg, so now she has access into shape-shifting into him. It all just adds a new level of information to Blackbeard wanting to get into Marijoa, because the fact that his father was there means there's probably something he wants there, or at least they have similar motivations. Lastly, let's talk about what this reveal could mean for the future of One Piece and some future theories that I've seen a lot of people talking about. The fact that Rox is Blackbeard's father adds a whole new level of stock to Luffy and Kobe combining forces to defeat Blackbeard, similar to how Garp and Roger combined forces to defeat Blackbeard. I know that's not exactly confirmed because a lot of people think it was Roger versus Rox and the world government just threw Garp into the news to, save face. Regardless, I think Garp's successor in Kobe and also his grandson in Luffy, but that's less important than Kobe, and Roger's successor in Luffy defeating the son of Rox, Blackbeard, just like how Roger and Garp defeated Rox. I think it could be extremely interesting for the story. I know some people don't really like this because it's sort of a forced parallel that kind of pushes Kobe into a more important role than he already has. Me personally, I would love to see it. I don't think there's very many good duo fights in One Piece, and Kobe and Luffy are two of my favorite characters. Even if it's not entirely this and it's Luffy versus Blackbeard and Kobe just has a hand in helping part of the fight, I think it would be really cool. And even though the parallel is a little bit on the nose, I would love to see it. But enough of the soft stuff. Some of the crazy theories I've seen is that Buggy could potentially be getting in the mix with the Blackbeard lineage here. I do think Rox does look a little bit like Buggy, but I think there's actually a little bit more evidence to this being true than just how he looks. And it has a lot to do with the web of connections between Blackbeard, Shanks, and Buggy. We know that Shanks was discovered in a treasure chest after God Valley on Roger's boat, and Buggy was also an apprentice of the same age on Roger's boat. I think it's entirely possible that Buggy was also discovered at God Valley as the son of Rox, adopted onto Roger's boat, and now that's how Shanks and Buggy sort of became brothers in a way on Roger's ship. And it would also add a whole new level of depth to Blackbeard and Shanks' rivalry. Shanks obviously scarred by Blackbeard. Shanks been looking to kind of contain Blackbeard's rise to the top of the entire series, and the fact that Shanks would have been apprentice buddies or sort of non-related brothers with Buggy, who is the actual blood brother of Blackbeard, would be extremely interesting for these characters' sort of trio dynamic. I think that's something I could totally see Oda pulling. And like I mentioned in the beginning, Rox and Buggy sort of just look like each other. Maybe it's just Oda's same face syndrome in the manga drawing, but I think it's very interesting and it could be something that could happen in the future. And lastly, I think this reveal adds a little bit of evidence to a theory that I personally wasn't a fan of, and that is that Blackbeard versus Emu is going to happen. The reason I say this is that we know God Valley was wiped off of the map. Obviously, this is the same power that Emu used to erase the Lugia Kingdom. I think Emu definitely had a hand in destroying God Valley, which also means Emu could have been the one who took out Rox as the final blow instead of Roger or Garp, which is maybe why Garp is a little upset about this fight. Not only the fact that he was helping the Celestial Dragons, but that he actually didn't get to land the final blow. And this would mean that Blackbeard versus Emu is Blackbeard getting revenge on Emu for his father, or at least fulfilling his father's footsteps in trying to topple the world government, because, let me remind you, God Valley started as a world government hunting zone. It was a world government event with a bunch of world nobles, so it's very possible that Blackbeard now has a lot of bad blood with the king of the world, Emu. That's all I'll be covering in this video. There is a ton of more future theories, recontextualized scenes, and also implications on the strength of the story from this reveal. If you have any that you wanted me to cover or that I missed, let me know in the comments. I'm super curious about what I couldn't think of. There's just so much that this reveal brings to One Piece that I literally couldn't wrap it all around my brain. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate it if you liked. If you want to keep up with Elbaf, I make videos every week, so make sure to subscribe. I appreciate you watching all the way to the end, and I'll see you next time.